everybody. I have like a really cool surprise for you. First of all, let me tell you about the piece that we're going to be doing. We are doing an Asian piece. And the whole thing is going to be that there's an Asian princess with all the little lotus flowers.
I will explain the gossip. Never miss this video. Please subscribe to the channel. This ADC doesn't know the meaning of the word defeat. After getting dragged on stage and roasted by the judges again in part 1, you'd think they'd back off. But Kathy? She's back with a clipboard, a new group of boys, and even more elaborate schemes to bring down Abby. Because apparently, losing gracefully is not part of this ADC syllabus. Kathy's new secret weapon, the boys are back. Kathy ditches her previous lineup and returns with an all-boy team, including the infamous Jalen, Gino, and later Luca and Gavin. Why? Because according to Kathy, Abby can't choreograph for boys, and this is her master plan to beat her at her own game. Spoiler alert, it's more drama than dance most of the time. That time Kathy hired Anthony Burrell. Again. Anthony Burrell is back in the CADC studio, and he's not here to play. He critiques the kids harshly, questions Kathy's leadership in front of everyone, and clashes with the moms like it's his full-time job. One minute, he's telling Kathy she's not serious enough, and the next he's choreographing a savage number just to rile up Abby. Iconic moment, when Anthony said, "This isn't just a studio. It's war," and then walked out before competition. Abby and Kathy screaming matches and studio ambushes. The CADC continues its favorite tradition, ambushing ALDC rehearsals. One day they're just in the area, and the next, Kathy's barging into the studio with a camera crew and a smirk. Highlights: a Kathy mocking Abby's choreography with fake tears. A Abby retaliating by calling Kathy's routines predictable and pathetic. A showdown in the hallway that ends with Kathy shouting, "Your kids aren't stars, they're punchlines." And yes, Holly gave her that look. Vivi-Anne is still Vivi-Anne. The one person who never changes is Vivi-Anne, who always looks like she was dragged into the studio against her will. Her solos are as stiff as ever, but Kathy insists she's improving, even though Vivi literally danced with a lollipop in one comp and forgot her steps. It's clear, Vivi is just here for the snacks and the occasional acro flip. Kathy's mature dances are not it. ADC starts leaning into edgy themes to get the judges' attention, like broken dolls, tech addicts, and the price of fame. The results? A mess of props, dramatic stares, and lots of interpretive angst that somehow still lands them. 4th place. Meanwhile, ALDC keeps sweeping the awards with tighter, cleaner routines, and it drives Kathy insane. The CADC moms, especially Erin, Joanne, and Tammy, try to outsass Jill, Christy, and Melissa. They show up in matching red outfits, throw shade about ALDC favoritism, and loudly celebrate when ALDC places second. Best quote from Erin: "At least our kids don't cry when they get corrections." Cut to her son storming off mid-rehearsal. If there's one thing Dance Moms fans have learned, it's that Kathy Nesbitt-Stein never stays gone for long. Just when Abby Lee Miller thinks she's banished her longtime nemesis for good, Kathy shows up with a fresh batch of dancers, a gleam in her eye, and a plan to sabotage the ALDC from the inside out. Every return is bigger, cattier, and more theatrical, and this time, Kathy's bringing a whole new brand of chaos. She doesn't come alone either. Kathy's entourage is louder, brasher, and more motivated than ever. Gone are the days of sweet little Vivi-Anne twirling in the background. Now, Kathy's recruiting serious talent and serious shade. Her goal? Not just to beat Abby, but to humiliate her in front of every judge, fan, and former friend. Kathy's return strategy? Coach dancers that Abby either rejected, ignored, or underestimated. It's a recipe for maximum drama. She swoops in with promises of solos, stardom, and a studio that isn't a war zone. Sound familiar? It's classic Kathy. Capitalize on Abby's chaos to fuel her own fire. She even targets dancers who've shown signs of ALDC discontent, especially moms on the verge of mutiny. Did your kid not get the solo she deserved? Has Abby screamed one too many times? Kathy is waiting in the wings with a friendly grin and an ADC jacket in your child's size. And let's be honest, A few ALDC moms have been tempted. When Kathy plots, she doesn't do it alone. Her true secret weapons are the moms who've been burned by Abby. Whether it's Jill back in her floater era, Christy during the peak Maddie favoritism scandal, or random recruits from Abby's ultimate dance competition, Kathy knows how to collect allies with axes to grind. In some scenes, it honestly feels like a support group for moms Abby has screamed at. And when they gather under the CADC banner, their energy is chaotic evil. Gossip flies. Tensions boil. And Kathy's just sitting there, sipping her Diet Coke, loving every second. Kathy may say she wants friendly competition, but the backstage scenes tell a different story. From whispered shade to full-blown shouting matches, her mere presence sends the ALDC into panic mode. It's like Kathy thrives on the idea of disrupting Abby's precious pyramid. Remember the time she brought in the CADC just to show up unannounced and rattle the girls before their group number? Or when she parked her entire team in front of Abby's dressing room just to eavesdrop and intimidate? These aren't just coincidences. Kathy knows what she's doing. She's weaponizing presence, and Abby knows it. If anyone's going to pull off some low-key espionage, it's Kathy. We've seen her send scouts to competitions, sneak peeks at ALDC rehearsals, and even attempt to mirror Abby's choreography before it hits the stage. When she's not yelling at someone's mom, she's gathering intel like a dance-themed Bond villain. The best part? Kathy thinks she's being subtle, but every time Abby catches wind of it, she combusts. And honestly, that's half the entertainment. Kathy doesn't even need to win. If she can get under Abby's skin enough to spark an on-camera meltdown, she considers that a victory. No one commits to a theme like Kathy. Some of CAC's most memorable performances aren't just about technique, they're about making a statement. That time she choreographed a number to mock Abby's teaching style? Legendary. The apple of my eye skit, complete with red costumes and snide narration? Iconic. Then there was the death of the ALDC routine, complete with symbolic tombstones and dancers portraying disgraced students. Was it in poor taste? Absolutely. Was it unforgettable? Also yes. ALDC may not always win the trophies, but they always win the pettiness. And for fans, that's way more valuable. Kathy versus Abby is one of reality TV's greatest rivalries. These two can't be in the same zip code without screaming at each other. Whether it's in the lobby of a dance competition or the audience mid-performance, things always escalate. Some of the most chaotic face-offs include: "You're eating my face off." Kathy accusing Abby of being aggressive when she was the one charging. "Let's go, big mouth." Kathy taunting Kelly during one of the messiest backstage brawls in show history. At any moment involving a purse swing or thrown water bottle, because Kathy came ready to rumble. No matter how many times Abby says she's done with Kathy, the next episode proves otherwise. Kathy's not just here to dance, she's here to deliver messages through choreography. Every routine seems carefully crafted to take a jab at the ALDC, whether it's a lyrical routine dripping in metaphors or a jazz number poking fun at Abby's signature moves. Once, she even had a dancer wear a blonde wig to imitate Maddie, the ultimate insult. And when Abby noticed, you guessed it, meltdown mode. It's performance art and warfare, all rolled into one. Let's be honest, Kathy doesn't always win competitions. The CADC has their moments, but Abby's team usually walks away with the trophy. And yet, Kathy still manages to dominate the storyline. Why? Because chaos is her currency. Even when CADC places second or third, Kathy spins it into a victory. The judges were biased. At least our choreography had meaning. We're classy, not flashy. And when Kathy does win, oh, she milks it. She'll bring out props, moms, and a post-show confessional that rivals a political speech. For Kathy, the competition is just a stage, and she's always performing. The truth is, Kathy's return marked a shift in the Dance Moms universe. She wasn't just comic relief anymore. She was a fully formed antagonist, orchestrating sabotage with the precision of a military general and the flair of a Broadway diva. Her legacy? A masterclass in reality TV villainy. A recruiting underdogs and turning them into power players. Exploiting Abby's weak spots for maximum screen time. A reinventing CADC again and again to keep the ALDC on edge. And let's face it, Fans loved it. For every over-the-top stunt and eye roll, there was a viewer screaming, "Yes, Kathy," from their couch. Abby may have built a dance empire, but Kathy built a chaos dynasty, and she's not done yet. The minute Kathy announces, "I'm bringing in Anthony Burrell," fans knew Abby Lee Miller is going to combust. It wasn't just a power move. It was a declaration of war. Anthony Burrell is not your average guest choreographer. He's a trained professional, a commanding presence, and most importantly, someone who has zero tolerance for Abby's screaming equals training philosophy. So when Kathy hires him, again, to elevate the Candy Apples Dance Center into an elite threat, it's with a specific purpose: to obliterate the ALDC. And this time, Anthony's not just choreographing. He's pushing, molding, and straight up calling out the kids and the moms who aren't pulling their weight. The drama? Immediate. Let's be real. Kathy is many things: a reality TV icon, a professional pot stirrer, a master manipulator, but she's not known for elite choreography. That's why hiring Anthony was the smartest and shadiest move she could make. Bringing in a high-profile choreographer like him not only gave her team instant credibility, it sent a clear message: I'm not here to play around. I'm here to win. And in Kathy's world, winning isn't just about trophies. It's about humiliating Abby Lee on national television. Anthony is the weapon, and Kathy has just pulled the trigger. The moment Abby finds out that Anthony is working with Kathy again, the explosion is instant. She goes full meltdown. He's a washed-up backup dancer. He doesn't know how to work with kids. You think you can buy a win? And the best part? Anthony does not care. He claps back every single time. The tension between them is electric. You can feel it through the screen. Mutual disdain, rooted in ego and artistic pride. These are two titans who both think they're the best. And now they're on opposite sides of the battlefield. While the adults are busy trading insults, the real pressure falls on the dancers. Anthony doesn't hold back. He's intense. He's demanding. And he's not there to coddle. We saw it play out in rehearsals. Kids crying mid-combo. Moms peeking through the door, horrified. Anthony telling Kathy point blank, they're not good enough yet. He brings a whole different energy than the usual CADC rehearsal. Gone are the goofy warm-ups and gentle encouragement. Anthony's studio is a pressure cooker, and not every dancer can handle the heat. Naturally, the CADC moms aren't loving the Anthony Burrell experience. Some are thrilled. Finally, their kid is being taken seriously. But others? Not so much. Cue the whispering. He's too hard on them. This is supposed to be fun. I don't think he even likes Kathy. It doesn't take long before the backstage bickering begins. One mom accuses another of sabotaging rehearsal. Kathy has to play referee and cheerleader, while Anthony silently judges everyone. At one point, he even walks out mid-rehearsal after a mom questions his critique. Iconic. As competition day nears, Anthony unveils the routine. It's bold, abstract, artistic. The kind of number that's either going to blow the judges away or leave them completely confused. The dancers are struggling. The moms are panicking. And Kathy? She's just hoping everything doesn't implode. Anthony's final pep talk before the number is basically, prove Abby wrong, or go home. No pressure. The Candy Apples take the stage, and jaws drop. It's nothing like an ALDC number. No classic costumes. No pageant makeup. Just power. Emotion. Control. This is the Anthony Burrell signature. Bold musicality, sharp angles, and zero sugarcoating. The crowd is stunned. Abby looks, well, offended. This isn't just a performance. It's a direct challenge. And the best part? Kathy is beaming from the audience, watching it all unfold like a villain in a telenovela. Her "I told you so" face is one for the ages. As the judges hand down their scores, tensions reach a boiling point. The ALDC places first. CADC comes in second. But that doesn't stop Kathy from turning on the theatrics. She storms into the hallway like she just watched a robbery. It was political. They're judging the studio, not the dancing. That number was art, and they gave it a silver? Anthony doesn't even flinch. They weren't ready to understand it, he says coolly, like a true artist above the noise. It's both savage and elegant. Outside the dressing room, Abby confronts Anthony directly. This isn't just rivalry anymore. It's personal. Their confrontation includes Anthony mocking Abby's pyramid system, Abby yelling that Anthony uses kids for his own career, Anthony accusing her of stifling creativity. It's TV gold. Neither backs down. No one apologizes. And Kathy just watches gleefully, like the puppet master she is. This moment became a defining scene of Dance Moms, because it wasn't just about dance. It was about ego, art, power, and two adults who just cannot stand each other. After the competition, CADC goes back to the drawing board. Some dancers leave. Some moms rage quit. Anthony? He exits like a storm, loud, intense, unforgettable. Kathy's left to pick up the pieces. But in true Kathy fashion, she spins it. Anthony gave them exposure. We took artistic risks. We rattled Abby. And honestly, she's not wrong. Even without a win, that performance shook the ALDC. Abby was rattled. The fans were divided. And the CADC, for one brief moment, had the entire spotlight. Years later, that time Kathy hired Anthony again remains one of the most talked about CADC arcs. Because it wasn't just about dance. It was about strategy. Kathy weaponized talent. Anthony weaponized choreography. Abby weaponized rage. And all of it unfolded on camera like a live-action chess match. Fans still debate. Should Anthony have pushed the kids that hard? Was the number 2 out there? Did the judges undervalue art? But one thing's for sure, it was peak Dance Moms. The kind of unhinged, high-stakes chaos that made the show legendary. Every time Kathy hints that she's bringing in a special choreographer, fans immediately think, is it Anthony? Because let's face it, no one brings the drama quite like him. Even years later, the thought of another Anthony/Abby showdown is enough to send the fandom spiraling. It's reality TV perfection. Unpredictable, theatrical, and always personal. So will Kathy ever hire him again? Probably not. But if she does, get your popcorn. It all began innocently enough. Kathy Nesbitt Stein, a guest at the Abby Lee Dance Company, observing rehearsals and inserting herself just enough to catch attention. But what started as a curious friendship quickly mutated into one of Dance Mom's most ferocious rivalries. Abby Lee Miller and Kathy weren't just clashing over choreography. They were locked in a brutal, never-ending war of egos, shade, and screeching. At first, Kathy kept things cool. She smiled politely in rehearsals. She applauded the ALDC girls. She even tried to fit in. But it didn't take long for Kathy to get bored with being a background character. She was made for the spotlight. And once she returned to her own studio, the infamous Candy Apples Dance Center, Kathy began plotting Abby's downfall in earnest. Abby couldn't stand Kathy popping up at competitions, especially when she started luring dancers and choreographers away. Kathy didn't just show up to compete. She came to disrupt. She walked into competitions like a storm cloud with a rhinestoned umbrella, and Abby could sense the thunder coming. There were countless moments when Kathy would accidentally overhear ALDC strategy meetings or throw shade from across the hallway. The tension wasn't just surface level. It was strategic, personal, and constantly escalating. If there's one thing Kathy perfected, it was the art of ambush. Whether it was storming the dressing room to drop a snide comment or poking her head into an ALDC rehearsal to stir the pot, she always knew exactly when to insert herself. Cue the yelling. Abby, never one to back down, would launch into a tirade of epic proportions. Kathy's calm sarcasm only made things worse. The two screamed across dance bags, makeup mirrors, and stunned children who probably wondered whether dance was worth all this noise. One of the most jaw-dropping moments in their feud came when a screaming match got physical. Kathy and Abby had been going at it all season, trading insults and provocations. But during one particularly heated hallway confrontation, Kathy actually slapped Abby with a purse. Yes, an actual on-camera slap. The sound echoed. Abby lunged. Producers intervened. Fans lost their minds. It wasn't just reality TV gold. It was the moment that solidified their beef as the most iconic of the entire series. Kathy rarely played by the rules. She didn't wait for competitions to stir drama. She brought it directly to Abby's front door. In a wild power move, Kathy traveled to the ALDC studio in Pittsburgh with her dancers, just to throw shade and claim dominance. She stood outside the building like a villain in a soap opera, declaring she had a better team, better technique, and a better studio. Inside, Abby was fuming. Outside, Kathy was thriving. The tension between Abby and Kathy wasn't just limited to them. It infected the moms too. ALDC moms like Holly, Melissa, and Kelly found themselves constantly defending their girls from Kathy's jabs. Kathy, in turn, deployed her own army of moms who were just as quick with comebacks and accusations. Backstage brawls became a norm. Snide remarks flew faster than pirouettes. Every competition felt like a battleground, and Kathy was always armed with a new insult. Let's not forget Kathy's love of using props in her routines to troll Abby. From giant apples to toy guns, Kathy's performances were often less about technique and more about making a statement. Abby loathed the theatrics. Kathy lived for them. It wasn't just competition, it was psychological warfare. Kathy choreographed entire numbers just to get under Abby's skin, and more often than not, it worked. To be fair, Abby wasn't always the victim. She threw her own jabs, often targeting Kathy's choreography, studio size, or Vivi-Anne's skill level. She loved making Kathy feel small, literally and figuratively. And if she couldn't beat Kathy with politeness, she'd beat her with volume. Abby would march up to Kathy's dressing room and unleash a tirade. She'd call out Kathy's dancers mid-competition. She'd scream across hallways about real dance training, while Kathy fired back about real artistry. Let's be real, the Abby versus Kathy arguments could fill an entire series of their own. Here are just a few fan-favorite clashes. The prop meltdown. Abby storms out over Kathy's use of baby strollers in a routine. You're a joke. Showdown. Kathy calls Abby a fraud. Abby calls Kathy a coward. The apple toss. Abby throws a literal apple across the room in Kathy's direction. A Pittsburgh pop-in. Kathy crashes an ALDC rehearsal and is chased out by security. Each moment is a reminder that these two women were not just rivals, they were foils. No Kathy-centric episode is complete without a mention of Vivi-Anne, Kathy's daughter, mascot, and occasional prop herself. Abby loved targeting Vivi's lack of enthusiasm. Kathy, of course, retaliated by pushing Vivi into increasingly strange routines. Vivi didn't say much, but her mere presence seemed to infuriate Abby. Whether she was doing a zombie dance or a prop-heavy piece about candy, Vivi was often in the eye of the storm, quietly dancing while chaos erupted around her. As the seasons went on, the Abby-Kathy rivalry remained iconic. Even as new enemies came and went, no one matched the level of disdain and theatricality these two shared. Their final blowouts were some of the most intense, explosive walkouts, threats to call the cops, and accusations of cheating. By the end, they couldn't even be in the same hallway without security. Still, neither one backed down. Neither apologized. And neither let go of the grudge. Abby and Kathy were the perfect storm. Both over the top, both unfiltered, both obsessed with being the best. Their war gave us some of the most iconic moments in reality TV history. The screaming, the ambushes, the petty choreography battles. It was chaotic, cringy, and completely addictive. And while the ALDC and CADC have long since closed their doors, one thing's for sure, this rivalry will never die. From the moment she first appeared on Dance Moms, Vivi-Anne Stein stood out, not for her dance technique or fiery stage presence, but for being completely unbothered. While other dancers cried in rehearsals, fought for solos, and melted down under pressure, Vivi moved to the beat of her own, usually very slow drum. And that's exactly what made her unforgettable. Vivi wasn't interested in the drama. She wasn't even interested in the spotlight. She was just there, adorable, monotone, slightly confused, but always present. And somehow, that was enough to make her a legend in her own right. Let's talk about Vivi's arrival. Kathy originally joined the ALDC as a normal dance mom, bringing her daughter to train with Abby Lee. But this was never going to be a long-term fit. Abby's expectations were intense. Vivi not so much. While the other girls were executing fouettes and fighting for the top spot on the pyramid, Vivi was still learning how to stay in sync. Cue Kathy pulling Vivi from the team and going back to Ohio to lead the Candy Apples, this time with her daughter front and center. Not because Vivi begged for more stage time, but because Kathy decided her child would be the star, whether Vivi wanted it or not. One of the best things about Vivi-Anne? She was unintentionally hilarious. Her deadpan reactions, her blank stares, her iconic confessionals where she looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Vivi could deliver punchlines without even realizing she was doing it. Some gems. I don't even like dancing. My mom made me do it. Stares into the camera with zero emotion while chaos happens around her. It wasn't that Vivi lacked personality. She just had her own kind of quiet, chaotic energy. She was the eye of the Candy Apple storm. Kathy loved to make Vivi the centerpiece of elaborate, prop-heavy routines. There was the infamous zombie dance, the candy-themed solos, the tap numbers with oversized lollipops. Vivi gave it her all, or at least 35%, and audiences couldn't help but be captivated. She might not have hit every count, but she hit every moment of meme-worthy weirdness. While other kids performed with tears in their eyes, Vivi danced like she was waiting for it to end so she could go eat a pretzel. No one was more committed to Vivi's dance career than Kathy. She choreographed for her, defended her, even brought in top-tier choreographers like Anthony Burrell to push her further. But the truth was, Vivi just wasn't that into it. Still, Kathy made Vivi the face of the Candy Apples, despite stiff competition and much stronger dancers auditioning to join her team. It wasn't about who danced best. It was about who represented the Nesbitt-Stein brand. Vivi was loyal. Vivi was available. And most importantly, Vivi was hers. Unlike most of the other CADC dancers, Vivi didn't stir up much rivalry energy. She wasn't exactly out to crush the ALDC, or even remember their names. She was often in her own world, dancing alongside her teammates like a confused yet committed cousin who got pulled into a family recital. Still, her presence alone was enough to get under Abby's skin. Abby constantly criticized Kathy for forcing Vivi to dance. And while Kathy insisted Vivi was a star in the making, Abby mocked her every step of the way, even calling her a little robot with no passion. Harsh? Yes. Accurate? Occasionally. But somehow, Vivi always remained calm, unfazed, and just a little bit fabulous. One of Vivi's biggest contributions to the show? Her confessionals. Those low-energy interviews where producers clearly wanted a soundbite, and Vivi gave them absolute gold without even trying. Whether she was staring blankly into the camera or delivering a monotone one-liner, Vivi became the queen of accidental comedy. The internet took notice. Clips of her reactions went viral. GIFs, memes, reaction videos, TikToks. In a show full of over-the-top personalities, Vivi stood out by being aggressively neutral. It's hard to pick the most absurd moment from Vivi's performance history, but her turn as a French clown, complete with a beret and mime-like expressions, ranks high. It was classic Kathy. Wild concept, big props, tons of glitter. Vivi, of course, delivered the performance with all the enthusiasm of someone being forced to do karaoke at a family reunion. But that somehow made it even better. While ALDC girls rehearsed like Olympic athletes, Vivi moved through rehearsals like she was being mildly inconvenienced. She was never frantic. She never cried. She never shouted. She just existed, calmly bobbing through counts as Kathy screamed about musicality. The stark contrast between Vivi's vibe and the chaos around her made every rehearsal feel like performance art. Every once in a while, Vivi would surprise everyone, including her mom, by actually enjoying a routine. Whether it was a tap number she clicked with or a quirky group piece where she got to wear a fun costume, there were flashes of joy. And when Vivi smiled on stage, it was a rare and magical thing. The crowd would melt. Kathy would tear up. And the producers would scramble to make sure the moment made it to air. 11 Vivi's iconic one-liners. Let's celebrate some more of Vivi's finest quotes. I like bacon. I don't know what's going on. I'd rather be at home with my dog. Each line, delivered with complete sincerity and deadpan brilliance, cemented her place in Dance Mom's history. Over time, Vivi developed a cult fanbase. People weren't just laughing at her antics. They loved her for being different. In a sea of kids clawing for attention, Vivi was chill. Real. Unpolished. She wasn't performing for the cameras. She was surviving them. Fan edits began popping up. Merch. Hashtags. Entire Reddit threads dissecting her expressions. Vivi was no longer a side character. She was a mood. Spoiler alert, she's still Vivi-Anne. She grew up, danced a little more, dabbled in other interests, and stayed mostly out of the spotlight. But she'll always be that quirky kid in the background of a Candy Apples rehearsal, calmly blinking as Kathy screams about commitment. Even as the dance world continues to evolve, Vivi remains frozen in our memories, a symbol of nonchalance in a universe powered by overreaction. Vivi's legacy is unmatched because it's so unexpected. She wasn't the best dancer. She wasn't the loudest voice. She didn't win the most trophies. But she became iconic just by being exactly who she was, unapologetically low energy in a high-stakes world. She taught us that sometimes the biggest impression is made by doing the least. And that is why Vivi-Anne will forever be a Dance Moms legend. In a show driven by drama, ambition, and non-stop noise, Vivi-Anne Stein was a silent revolution. She reminded us that not every kid wants to be in the spotlight, and that's okay. Her blank stares, deadpan delivery, and zombie dances were never meant to be iconic. And yet, they were. From the second Kathy Nesbitt Stein brought the Candy Apples back into the competition circuit, she didn't just assemble a new dance team. She unleashed a battalion of bold, brash, and battle-ready moms. And boy, were they ready to take on Abby and the ALDC mom squad. It was never just about the dancing. Kathy knew how to push buttons. And she brought in moms who were equally skilled in throwing shade, stirring drama, and standing 10 toes down in the face of Abby's fury. Meanwhile, the ALDC moms were already used to Abby's chaos. But CADC moms? They were wild cards. The result? Pure mayhem. From hallway screaming matches to backstage brawls that nearly turned physical, these moms turned every dance competition into a verbal cage match. Few feuds were more visually fabulous than Jill versus Kathy. Jill, dripping in leopard print and gold accessories, fancied herself a queen bee of the ALDC. Kathy, with her signature sarcasm and Ohio arrogance, couldn't stand Jill's theatrics. Their clashes were instant classics. Jill would roll her eyes and mutter, "She's so tacky," while Kathy would gleefully call Jill a fame-hungry stage mom with zero class. The two hurled insults across lobbies like dodgeballs, often within earshot of innocent children and very not innocent producers filming every second. And let's not forget the infamous hair-pulling threat. Kathy once yelled, "I'll rip that hairpiece off her head," prompting security to inch closer. Jill's response? A death glare and a smug, "At least my kid has talent." Petty? Absolutely. Iconic? Completely. Melissa was used to being in the hot seat, especially since Maddie was often the girl to beat. But when the CADC moms showed up, they treated Melissa like she was Abby's untouchable pet, and they hated it. Whether it was spitting accusations about favoritism or mocking Maddie's emotional solos, CADC moms went after Melissa with a vengeance. Some even accused her of sabotaging other dancers behind the scenes, with zero evidence, of course. Melissa's classic defense? Her overly calm, high-pitched denial, "I don't get involved in drama," which, of course, only enraged everyone more. Eventually, Melissa got savvier with her comebacks, but the damage was done. The CADC moms had labeled her a suck-up, and in the world of dance moms, there's no coming back from that kind of branding. If Kathy was the architect of mom drama, Yvette Waltz, mom of Hadley, was one of her most enthusiastic foot soldiers. She brought serious pageant mom energy to every interaction, and the ALDC moms hated it. The moment that lives rent-free in fans' heads? The studio shouting match, where Yvette stormed into the ALDC rehearsal space to confront Abby and the moms. "You're just intimidated because my daughter has real talent," she screeched, finger wagging in full force. Cue Christy, Kelly, and Holly forming an unbreakable wall of disdain. "We've seen your kid dance," Kelly deadpanned. "We're not scared." Security had to step in. Abby threw her hands in the air. Kathy watched from the hallway, grinning like the Joker. It was chaos, just the way CDC liked it. Every time the Candy Apples entered a competition, they brought the drama and the props. We're talking foam sculptures, sequin umbrellas, spinning candy wheels, and more rhinestones than Vegas. This sparked a war behind the scenes. ALDC moms would mutter things like, "It's not dance, it's a costume contest." Meanwhile, SEDC moms fired back. "We're bringing art." You're stuck in 1995. One particularly heated moment? When the CADC moms accused Abby of copying one of their theatrical group concepts, Abby predictably lost it. "I've forgotten more about dance than you'll ever know," she screamed. CADC mom response: "Then remember to bring some originality next time." The passive aggression turned full aggressive real quick. While CADC moms were usually the aggressors, Kathy herself was never afraid to make it personal. She took shots at everything from Holly's doctorate, "Do you think a PhD helps your kid turn out?" to Christy's parenting style, "Maybe if you focus less on wine and more on Chloe." Abby and her moms didn't take it lying down. Christy once told Kathy, "Your daughter doesn't even like dance," which, considering Vivi's vibes, wasn't even a lie. The result? A war of words that crossed lines almost every episode. At times it was uncomfortable. But it was also Dance Moms in its rawest, most chaotic form. Kelly Highland had a zero-tolerance policy for Candy Apples nonsense. So every time a CADC mom walked in, especially in their red and black logo gear, Kelly's shoulders squared and the claws came out. She especially clashed with mom newcomer Jeanette, mom of Ava. Jeanette was calm, collected, and tall. Everything Kelly hated in a nemesis. One smirk from Jeanette was enough to trigger a full-blown meltdown. "You think your daughter is better than Brooke and Paige?" Kelly snapped in one episode. Jeanette, with a serene smile, replied, "I know she is." Security was cold. If there's one thing you don't do on Dance Moms, it's insult Chloe in front of Christy. And the CADC moms made that mistake often. They'd sneer at Chloe's emotion over technique, mock her scores, and even accuse her of only being cast because Abby needed someone to rival Maddie. Christy wasn't having it. One time, a CADC mom rolled her eyes and said, "Chloe's solo was boring." Christy stood up in the middle of a competition hallway and shouted, "Your daughter could never perform like mine does, even on her worst day." Mic drop. The Candy Apples moms blinked in disbelief. Kathy clutched her pearls. Classic Christy. Holly usually stayed above the fray. But when pushed, she delivered some of the most devastating takedowns of the series. One of her best? When a CADC mom tried to question Nia's commitment to dance, Holly raised an eyebrow and calmly replied, "My daughter has poise, talent, and character. 3 things your child, and frankly you, are lacking." Gasps. Silence. A slow clap from Jill. Kathy tried to laugh it off, but everyone knew Holly had won that round. Backstage was sacred, or at least it was supposed to be. But that didn't stop CADC moms from barging into the ALDC dressing room multiple times to cause a scene. Sometimes it was Kathy. Sometimes it was a rogue mom with a bone to pick. But every time, it ended in a verbal smackdown. LDC moms would scream, "Get out," while security hovered awkwardly. Meanwhile, producers just zoomed in for reaction shots and whispered, "Keep rolling." Even off camera, the drama didn't stop. Once the show gained a massive online following, CADC and ALDC moms started trading jabs on social media. Tweets, Instagram comments, shady interviews. Fans ate it up. Some memorable moments. A CAC mom posted, "At least my daughter doesn't need fake tears to win." A Jill replied with a photo of Kendall holding a first-place trophy captioned, "No tears, just talent." Petty. 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 But so addictive. Let's not forget that Kathy wasn't just the coach of CADC, she was also a dance mom. Which meant when people criticized Vivi-Anne, she went full mama bear. Even when Vivi wasn't competing, Kathy inserted herself into every fight. She'd defend her kid's place on the team with the intensity of a trial lawyer. "No one works harder than Vivi," she once said. Cue Christy whispering to Melissa, "That girl barely walks fast." A few unforgettable one-liners from the CADC versus ALDC mom wars. Kathy, "If trashy behavior won trophies, your girls would win every time." A Kelly, "Better trashy than tacky, like your choreography." A Christie, we don't need props. We have personality. ALDC mom, you have a lot of nerve calling anything tacky with that makeup. The shade was relentless. And fans lived for it. Even in rare quiet moments, you could feel the tension. Like when both teams waited for scores in the same hallway. Moms would sit, arms crossed, glaring daggers. Every cleared throat. Every sigh. Every hair flip, it was all strategic. The second someone muttered, "At least we don't need Abby to be relevant," the room exploded again. While the girls danced, the moms duked it out in a parallel competition. The CADC versus ALDC mom drama gave us some of the most iconic confrontations in Dance Moms history. They weren't just fighting for their daughters. They were fighting for respect. For screen time. For dominance in the chaotic, glitter-drenched world of reality dance television. And thanks to Kathy, her moms, and Abby's fiery crew, we got drama that still echoes today. You can't talk about Vivi-Anne and the Candy Apples without bringing up the legendary group battles between the CADC and the ALDC. These weren't just dance competitions. They were wars waged in rhinestones, fueled by passive-aggressive smiles, and narrated by the shrieks of Kathy and Abby. Kathy leaving the LDC and forming her own team was the spark. From that moment on, she wasn't just building a studio. She was building a vendetta. The Candy Apples existed for one reason: to beat Abby Lee Miller at her own game. And Kathy was relentless. Let's be real, Kathy didn't always have the strongest team. But what she did have was flair. She brought in outside choreographers, handpicked dancers from across the country, and spared no expense when it came to props, gimmicks, or dramatic themes. Her dancers would burst onto stage in wigs, war paint, or full-on armor. It didn't matter if the concept made sense. As long as it rattled Abby, it was a win in Kathy's book. Abby, of course, saw Kathy's antics as a personal insult. She responded with tightly choreographed routines, screaming pep talks, and an unbreakable loyalty to her core team. Maddie, Chloe, Kendall, Mia, and the rest of the OG girls were her pride, and no way was she letting Kathy outshine them. Every time the CADC dared step on the same stage, Abby made sure her girls were dancing like their lives depended on it. Nothing captured the chaos better than the split-screen montages of both teams rehearsing. On one side, Abby berating her girls for missing a count. On the other, Kathy clapping enthusiastically while Vivi-Anne stared into the void. And yet, every now and then, the CADC actually gave the ALDC a run for their money. Especially when Kathy recruited powerhouse dancers who could match, or even outshine, Abby's girls. There were so many iconic battles, but a few deserve extra spotlight. The apple-picking routine. Kathy's dancers literally picked apples on stage. Abby lost her mind. The plastic routine. A direct jab at Abby, complete with Kathy holding a doll meant to mock her. The spy accusation. Kathy accused Abby of sending spies into her studio. Abby clapped back by mocking Kathy's entire team in front of the judges. The tension was so thick, you could cut it with a rhinestone-encrusted hairpin. Vivi didn't always compete in the fiercest battles, but she was always there, a silent mascot of candy apple weirdness. Whether she was marching across the stage in a half-hearted zombie shuffle or sitting in the dressing room chewing gum while chaos erupted, her presence somehow made everything better. She was the calm in Kathy's storm, the eye roll in Abby's tantrum, and the accidental star of some of the most chaotic scenes in Dance Moms history. Did the Candy Apples ever consistently beat the ALDC? No. But did they create some of the most iconic, hilarious, and wild moments in the show's entire run? Absolutely. The CADC wasn't about perfection. It was about spectacle. And in that arena, they sometimes outdanced, outcamped, and definitely outmemed the ALDC. The truth is, the show needed Kathy versus Abby. It was the perfect blend of absurd and intense. Two completely different coaching styles. Two radically different visions. And two moms who were never going to see eye to eye. Even when Kathy wasn't on screen, you felt her absence. And when she came back with a new crew and another outrageous theme, you knew chaos was coming. And Vivi-Anne? She was the cherry on top, the nonchalant queen of the most extra rivalry Dance Moms ever produced.